Have you ever wondered why you see ads about hair fibers and it just seems too good to be true? Well, I'll tell you why. It's because they're trying to sell you a product and they don't care how effective it is. Now, today we're going to be talking about hair fibers as a solution to hair loss. I've actually got some Kabuki here. This is one of the brands. Topic is another popular brand. I'm also going to give you my previous experience of hair fibers before I actually got a hair system, one that I'm wearing right now actually. Now, I'm going to start by saying I can understand why they're so popular. They're really cheap, so they're affordable, you get instant results, decent coverage, and it actually can give you a pretty good match to your natural hair. And these are the main reasons that I kind of started using it. I came across it on the internet, I saw an ad, I think it was Topic, and I was like, let's give this a try. I'm losing my hair, I've got trichotillomania, and you can see in this video here that this guy is going to be using some fibers. He's using a sort of sprayable version, and you can kind of see that, yes, it does give fairly good results overall. Obviously it's sped up because it does take some time and you need to work especially carefully around the actual temples itself, especially where the hair is more thinning. But there's a couple of things that you might notice when you see this video. Number one, it doesn't really give any coverage around the temples, and that is a problem for a lot of guys, especially young guys. It still gives the appearance that you have a receding hairline. On top of that, you can obviously see that video was sped up because it does take quite a long time and you have to be careful. You don't want to overshoot your mark when it comes to hair fibers. You don't want to accidentally get some of it below the hairline. You have to be really, really careful. You've got to be really, really specific. And if you try and rub it off with your fingers, if you do go too low, below the actual hairline itself, it can get on your fingers and it can be quite stubborn to actually get out. But now we're going to discuss the harsh realities of hair fibers, and this is why they're not the solution that they're made out to be on TV and on the internet, and I'm going to break this down one by one. So first and foremost, as you saw at the very beginning of this video, if it goes anywhere near wind, there's a decent chance it will blow off your head. So if you're in a windy environment, if you go at it with a hairdryer, it will just come off. So it immediately limits you to being in a windy environment.
Willing to provide that. We'll probably give it to you on Tuesday. Oh my God.
Or using a hairdryer to give it that extra bit of body. Number two, it's just not very durable. You have to apply it once, sometimes even twice a day, depending on the weather conditions that you're going into, or if you're planning on having a shower. I mean, think about going to a water park, or think about going to a fun fair, or think about going to, in the UK, we've got a place called Thorpe Park. Imagine going on a roller coaster there, but being terrified of doing it because you're terrified that your hair fibers are going to come flying off, which they will unless you're wearing a cap. If you're wearing a cap, they're just going to get stuck to your cap when you take it off. You're going to have to put your cap in the washing machine. It just seems like too much hassle and too much effort. And another harsh truth about hair fibers, are they better than they were 20 years ago? Yes, but do they still give an unnatural appearance? Especially at the front, yes. Around the crown, I think they do a pretty good job. However, around the front, and we saw it in that video earlier with a gentleman who had receding temples, it doesn't really give coverage of that. And even when it does, it doesn't look so natural. There's a guy who's on the new series of Love Island in the UK. I think in America you guys have Love Island too. But in the UK, he wears hair fibers. I did a video about him actually, about 6 to 8 months ago, and he's back on the new season, and you can see he still uses fibers, and it just looks a bit obvious. With a hair system, even with a hair transplant, you will get a more natural appearance, especially at the front. A really important thing here as well is that even though hair fibers can be useful in certain scenarios, and I have mentioned this earlier in previous videos, where if you've got a really mild thinning patch of hair, it can be quite useful. However, it's not a cure for hair loss. And as your hair loss progresses, hair fibers will become less and less useful. Because the way they work is they actually bind to the remaining fibers, the remaining hair fibers actually on your head. And the thinner that gets, and the more those hairs shrink, the less effective hair fibers will be. They'll lack in reality, they'll lack in realism, they'll lack in density. It just won't look very good, and it will look pretty obvious to the naked eye. So this again is something worth considering. Now, there are alternatives to hair fibers. Are they a bit more expensive? Yes. Pretty much everything is more expensive than hair fibers. Are you going to get a better result though? In pretty much 95% of cases, yes, you will. So it's really worth considering that investment. I'm a hair system wearer. You might want to consider taking the route that I've done for the last 6 years. It's been an absolute game changer for me. I wear LaVivid hair systems. I've negotiated a 15% discount with them. If you'd like to avail of that, head over to their website. The coupon code is in the description box below this video, so make sure you use that. Please don't forget, it will save you a lot of money. There are other alternatives as well. So there is the medical route, so you can take finasteride and minoxidil, or you can just take finasteride alone. This is not medical advice, by the way. I am not a doctor. Or you could look at the hair transplant route. I actually did a video on that last week, which you may want to check out. It's actually, I'm going to put it at the end of this video so you can check that out after this one. And there is SMP, and that's SMP, not SNP, like the Scottish Nationalist Party. Scalp micropigmentation. It's a real mouthful, but in layman's terms, it's basically a tattoo on your scalp. Now, this works really well for some guys. It doesn't work so well for other guys. I think if you've got quite a sort of dynamic face shape, if you've got fairly good cheekbones, if you have ears which are fairly close to your head, I think it can really work for you. It tends to also work better for gentlemen with darker complexions. Gentlemen with lighter complexions, skin the color of mine, it doesn't generally work as well. So guys, please don't worry, because there are alternatives out there. The alternatives are plentiful, but always make sure that you do your research. Now, hair fibers do have their place, and it's really important to talk about this right now. I think especially if you're in the early stages of hair loss, hair fibers can actually be really useful in concealing hair loss in the earlier stages. So on the Norwood scale, if you're like a 2 or a 3, or even a 4, I think a 4 is maybe pushing it a little bit, but you might be able to push it that far. If you are a 2, 3, or even a 4, hair fibers could be really useful for you, but I wouldn't use them alone. I think they can be used as a complementary measure alongside something else, maybe a finasteride and a minoxidil. Obviously, if you're looking to do that route initially in the early stages anyway, please do consult a medical professional. But beyond that, I think it's probably a good idea to be looking at the alternatives. So in summary, hair fibers can be useful for you if you are in the early stages, the very early stages of hair loss. They can give you instant results, they can give fairly decent coverage, and they're really affordable. eBay, Amazon, all of these vendors sell hair fibers. They're very easily accessible. The negatives are the durability. They don't stick on very well. They can get attached to your pillow. They can actually blow off partially in the wind. Don't go swimming with them. Don't go on a roller coaster with them. You have to be really careful. If you wear a hat or a beanie or something like that, it's likely it'll get attracted to that, and you're going to have to put that in the wash. I remember back in the day when I was wearing hair fibers and I wear a hat, and my hat, the inside of my hat would be covered in fibers, and it was always going in the washing machine. And if you're progressing into like a Norwood 4, Norwood 5, I really would encourage you to consider the alternatives. They will give you a better result. They will give you a longer term, more sustainable, more realistic result. Please don't use hair fibers if your hair loss has progressed too far. And whatever route you do take, guys, always think longer term. Think 10, 15, 20 years down the line. What can I afford? What's going to work for me now? What's going to work for me then? And what's the best route for me from now until then? And it's not going to be the same for everyone. Everyone is different. So I want you to take your time thinking about that, especially if you're in the earlier stages of hair loss. Now, guys, let me know your experience of hair fibers. Have you tried them in the past? Are you wearing hair fibers right now? Have you found them helpful on your journey? Have you found them to your detriment? Have they been problematic? Have they been harder work than you'd initially anticipated? Where you sold something in an advert which effectively didn't meet up to the standard that you were expecting and the standard that they portrayed to you? Let me know in the comments box below. If you've liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And if you stuck around to this video and you're interested about potentially the downsides of hair transplants, the risks that you might be taking, check out this video popping up on the screen right now. I look forward to speaking to you very soon, guys. Take care.